Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this video lesson. So the first thing that I want you to do back over here in our programming area is let's go ahead and click on the top, and let's see here, I'm going to have you right next to here. Oh, actually it's already included. If you don't already see using system collections generic, then this is what you're going to have to type. And let me just put a quick comment over here. And for our purposes, this will allow us to create lists of objects. So you probably already see this here, but one of the main purposes, at least for us, is in order to be able to create a list. The next thing to do is after our public object, game object strips, I'm going to go ahead and place over here. I guess, the position isn't correct, but if you want to do the same thing that I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and create a private instance variable. It will be of type list, and what I'm going to do is create game objects, and we are going to call those game objects strips. Next, let's scroll down over here to the start area and go ahead and click inside here, and you're going to type strips and then the assignment operator, new list, the less than symbol, game object, greater than symbol, with an open and close parentheses and a semicolon after that. What you're basically doing is you're instantiating of type list a bunch of game objects. Collectively, they're going to be referred to as strips. Now let's add each of the above strips to our list. And the way that we're going to do that is we'll say strips dot add parentheses and then the name of each of the strips. Well, you can see that I have strip 1 all the way to strip 15. So we'll put the parentheses there, and I'm going to copy and paste this so that I can accommodate all 15 strips. So it'll be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And now let's take all those and change it to the appropriate number from 1 all the way to 15. So 8, and then this will be 10, 11, 12, 13, sorry. This is a great way to propagate errors, so make sure that you're double checking your work. Inevitably, when you're done, we want to add each of these different strips to the list. The next thing to do is to scroll back over here to the top because I realize I'm going to need another variable. So what I'll do is underneath here where we have Boolean, I'm going to create an integer and we're going to call it index current strip. And so the idea is as we propagate through the various items of the list, the first item, which is going to be this one, will be index 0, and then index 1, and index 2, so forth and so on. Now they have individual names, but since I put them in a list, index 0 will be the first item. So what I'll do is I'll just simply scroll down over here after my list of strips in the start function, hit enter a couple of times, and we'll say index current strip. We're going to start that at 0. So every time we start the program, the index current strip will start at 0, which obviously is going to be strip number 1. Okay, at this point, let's go ahead and scroll down to the jump function, and we're going to modify this. Now, this code was to give you a demonstration of jumping to a particular strip. So we're not going to do this, so I'm going to go ahead and comment this line of code out. Let's go ahead and modify this so that it jumps to each new line of strip that's basically included inside of the list. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to move the strips current index by 1. I should say not move, increment. Increment the strips current index by 1. The next thing will be to get, sorry, let me put that in a comment. We're going to get the strip at the index within the strips list, get. And then the next thing is to get the x position, or I'm sorry, the z position, because z-axis is moving forward. Get the z position of this new strip and apply it to the chicken. Okay, so those are the three things that we must do. Well, the first thing is to increment the strip's current index. So I always like to, anytime that I'm creating an index for anything, I always like to use the keyword index and then whatever it is, so that if I have a bunch of them, if I have a bunch of indices, then I can just simply look at the list and select the appropriate one. And so that's the strategy that I use pretty much for anything. If I have rows, I'll have row A, row B, row C. If I have columns, column A, column B. If I have indices, if I have times, time A, time B. Now I don't put A, B. I put names that describe what it is that I'm doing for that particular item. Well, in this case, I'm referring to the index of the current strip. So let me go ahead and just double click over here. Now we're going to increment that by 1. So that's plus equals 1. You could have also done index current strip is going to be assigned index current strip plus 1, right? They both do the same thing. This is the shorthand notation. All right, now that you've done that, let's go ahead and get the strip at the index within the strips list. So we'll type in game object, next strip. Actually, you know what? I didn't create the next strip object. So let me do that really quickly. All right, hold on for a second. I was creating the next strip game object. So let me go ahead and type in game object next strip. That's what we're going to call this game object. And what that will be assigned is one of the strips from our list. So the name of our list is strips. We're going to type in the square bracket. And what we're going to do is say, in terms of the current index, right? So index current strip, whatever that happens to be pointing to, I want to grab that particular strip from the list. Now these are a bunch of game objects, so we type in capital G as game object. Don't forget your semicolon at the very end. Okay, so what I want to do, let me switch back over here to Unity. All right, you know that if I were to select the chicken, and let me do that here, okay. We want this to move forward, right? And you can see over here that the z-axis is the definition of moving forward. It's currently over here, so let me undo. It's currently at this position. I want you to move to the position in terms of the z-axis of the road. For the x-axis and for the y-axis, keep that the same in terms of the chicken, right? So this thing is just moving forward, right? So do you see how the x-axis and the y-axis, they don't change. Whatever the chicken's x-axis and whatever the chicken's y-axis are, keep those the same. It's the z-axis that I want you to change. It's the z-axis that's going to specifically of the next strip that I want the chicken to jump to. Okay, so having said that, then we're going to say, okay, the chicken, which we can identify as this transform dot position. Okay. In terms of where do you want to position this chicken? That's what this is referring to, because of course this code belongs to the chicken. Well, I am going to give you a new position in 3D space, and so that's what the vector 3D represents. Open and close parentheses with the semicolon at the very end. Now remember, I said that the x-axis is not going to change. So I'll just simply say transform.position.x-axis. The x-axis of the chicken is not going to change. The y-axis of the chicken is not going to change. It is the z-axis. I want that to move forward. And where do you want me to move? Well, wherever the next strip's z-axis is, that's where I want you to move. So we'll say next strip.transform dot position, and specifically wherever that next strip's z-axis is located, that's where I want you to go. So let me go ahead and save the work and go back over here to Unity to once again make sure you understand this concept. So it's saving it because I've saved my C# work. All right, so remember, this strip right here, that's where I want the chicken to move, and that's going to represent the current index 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, so forth and so on. Right now what I'm saying is jump to the current index, which it is 0, so we're going to increment that by 1, so now we're going to say jump to index 1. All right, so if we do that, that means that you're going to jump over here. Right? Well, you're going to move. We haven't done the jump animation yet, but we're going to move to that particular location. All right, let's see what happens. So let me go ahead and click play, and let me click. Okay, so I made a mistake. Notice how it went to, this is index 1, but I meant index 0. The jumping is working, so let's see what happens if I click again and click again. Okay, so that doesn't seem to be working now. So first of all, let me make sure that it's jumping to the correct location. So I'm going to stop this, go back over here. Now, over here where it says index current strip, it says +1, which means we're incrementing it by 1. Let's see. Okay, so for the index current strip, I declared it over here. But okay, yeah, so the current strip, it says it's equal to 0. Really what I should do is I should just set this to -1. Because it really is the 0 index that I want to get from this list. So since I'm incrementing it by 1 down here in my function, I'm going to start it off at -1. That way, when I call the jump function, it'll say, okay, take whatever the index strip is, which of course you know is -1 right now, right from the start of the program. Well, -1 plus 1 will make it 0, and that is the location of the strip that I want from our list. So having said that, let's go ahead and start. I should say save rather, and then switch back over here to Unity. It's going to update. Now let me go ahead and run the program. All right, and now let me click. Perfect. That's where I want it to go. I want it to go to that first location, which is the 0 index of our list. Okay, I don't know if you noticed that when I play the game, and let me go ahead and click, and the chicken moves to the next strip. I'm going to click again, and nothing happens. So what I forgot to do, let me go ahead and stop the game. Let's switch back over to our code area. After I do this, what I need to do is to set the flag is jumping, and I got to set that to false, right? So when we're jumping, okay, we go through the process of moving the chicken to the next location. But we must make sure that that flag is set to false, because how did we approach, or how did we arrive at this particular function? Well, you'll recall that we set the flag initially to is jumping is equal to false. Well, we are not jumping, and I just clicked the mouse down, so therefore we're going to set is jumping to true, and then we're going to call the function. Well, if I set the flag to is true, and if I never changed it to false, the next time it comes to the update, and if I click the button, is jumping is set to true, so that means if is jumping is false, which it's not, it's true, this will never get executed. So we have to make sure to change the flag is jumping back to false. So now, let me save my work, switch back over to Unity, it's updating, and then I'm going to run the game, and let's see if now it's going to jump from strip to strip. Okay, so click, 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 beautiful. So as you can see, it's clicking, every time I click the mouse, it's moving from one strip to the next strip. Now eventually I'm going to get an error because it's going to jump to a strip that does not exist, because what I'm going to end up doing is continuing to increment the index, current strip. Eventually it's going to land over here at this far out strip, and there are no other strips after that. So that's something that we have to take into consideration. We have to take into consideration the animation of how it moves from strip to strip. We don't like this, just simple moving. We want it to actually jump up in the air and land at that particular location. So there's several things to get started on, but At least now you have an understanding of how it is that we're going to be moving from our initial location to each of the different strips. All right, so this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.